Joining us now is host of Fast Politics podcast and Vanity Fair special correspondent Molly Jong-Fast. Molly, what do you make of former Speaker Nancy Pelosi whipping some votes here to make sure that Connolly, in the end, got the top spot on the committee over AOC, who many consider a generational political talent?
I was really glad you showed that clip from Jen Psaki because I thought that was really correct. And I would add that part of the problem in this cycle was that Democrats did all this really good once in a lifetime legislation, stuff like the Chips and Sciences Act, things that are like wildly important that really did actually, lower inflation or prevent, a lot of the sort of hard economic landing that a lot of us were worried about. And in fact, one of the big problems for Democrats was just that they couldn't transmit these wins to the voters. They had a real communication problem. And so when we sort of post-mortem the 2024 election, a lot of the thinking is that Democrats weren't forward-facing enough, frontward-facing enough, didn't necessarily do enough to engage in the vote with the voting public. So here is someone, AOC, who's extremely good at communicating with voters, who has a large platform, millions of followers, who people listen to and really like, and who can connect with young people. And more than that, even, she's able to connect with a certain kind of economic populism, which a lot of Democrats have struggled to connect with. So they had an opportunity to elevate AOC. And when you elevate AOC, you also elevate someone who has already their own media complex, in a sense.
And this is somewhat related, isn't it, Molly? I want to move to the post-election blame game that's playing out in the race to pick its, in terms of the DNC, their new chair, with progressives and moderates recriminating each other over whose messaging led to the party's loss to Trump, as well as how did they spend all the money? Did they make the right decisions in the $2+ billion that were spent? Do you agree with some progressives who say the Democratic brand is toxic? And how would you compare this to post-2016 in terms of the amount of internal unrest within the party?
So I don't necessarily think that a particular brand is toxic. Look, a lot of times people use elections to confirm their priors. So people who are very progressive feel that the party wasn't progressive enough. People who are this sort of never Trumpy feel that the party was too progressive. I'm not sure that matters so much. What we do know is that the party was not able to catch economic populism, despite the fact that they passed a lot of very populist legislation. So that in itself seems to me to be a communication problem. And my feeling was that Biden world just, because Biden was never a great interviewer, they just were sort of careful with him in a way that was really detrimental. And look, you had Trump running for president for 4 years, doing every interview, doing every media platform. And so the difference was he really took up all the oxygen. And you had Biden very, very careful, doing very little media. Then they had this debate, which was kind of a fiasco. Then Harris took over. She still, much better at communicating, still did not do a ton of media. And then you had Trump on every single podcast. And my feeling really was that 2024 campaign, as well as though it did do a lot of great stuff, and she really did a valiant job considering where she, remember, she jumped in there 3 months before. Mm-hmm. But that 2024 campaign, I think if it had run in 2016, she would have won. But, the media is much smaller now. A lot of independent media is, these people with these large followings, people like AOC who can connect with voters, or even people like Joe Rogan. If you don't go on Joe Rogan's show, you don't get in front of Joe Rogan's people. There's no way to circumvent that. And I think that is a real, that was ultimately the problem in that election.
Molly Jong-Fast, always great to see you. Thank you so much.